I've been I've been awake for 36 hours straight waiting for this recap. Why? Because it's the final four to determine who amongst our four remaining teams will move on to championship day to face one another in our 12th season of High School Jesters all digital improvaganza. It's going to be worth not sleeping for. That's right, everybody. It's time for the biggest just a recap of my career, but definitely for the league in general this year, not to take anything away from the weeks past, but we're about to find out what our championship day is going to look like. And in order to do that for High School Jesters, we need to bring in High School Jesters man himself. That's right. I'm calling the greatest superhero of them all, King Kopy. Stand and deliver. Yes. Oh, there he is. There it is. And that's the closest I've ever been to the trophy, even digitally. This is exciting. Look at that. I'm so stoked for the hype that is today. And you, what a presence over your shoulder there, Kopy. What a beautiful trophy you made for us this year.
It insisted. It told me it wants to be in the video this week, and I said, okay, I guess.
I believe, yeah, I mean, show off the goods. The goods are very much alive. And within the next couple of weeks, kids, one of our four teams we talk about today will hoist that over their heads in enthusiasm, gratitude, excitement, and good sportsmanlike improv, which is exactly what they all fought for this week. Was it not a Final Four for the ages? A pair of improv shows we could be very, very proud of.
Yeah, man. Top to bottom. So here's a fun little stat to think about, but we haven't had a Final Four that, excuse me, we could prepare for in the past 7 seasons.
Right.
Because the format used to be go from Elite 8 to Final Four in the same day.
Right.
So we would start with 8 and 2 would come out. So we haven't had a chance to actually do what we did with this Final Four in the past 7 years.
That's a really good point.
Which is super cool. But now actually watching these shows and seeing them, like, man, did it deliver. Just even that whole 8 to 2, just exhaustion comes in. Fatigue. I mean, just those extra little things. And did these 4 teams give it. And that was really cool.
Being of one of the teams, it's so hard for me to sit here and say unbiasedly that all 4 teams did an epic job normally, but it's not in this case. All 4 teams did an epic job bringing a flavor to what they do this year that we hadn't seen yet. I felt ATECH brought an unbelievable amount of presence and energy. Like, I was like, so proud to be across from them because I know they were hyped for this game. Plus Nick, I don't think I'd seen Nick, and boy, funny, in the pocket comedy kind of mind, right? Somebody that they were going to really want to lean on in a matchup like this. So fun to see that. Durango brought in an amazing cameo from Josh Ocampo in Newlywed Game that had me just even more grateful to know Josh this year, right? Like, what a cool story and kid he's been. One of our most improved nominees, right? And Josh, every time I've seen you since this playoff has started, I've been really learning so much about what makes you special. So thank you. Really fun stuff there. Not to mention Alicia running through her yard. One of my favorite moments of the weekend.
Yeah.
Just so much cleverness on display from Alicia, especially. I'm just gonna say, as far as the perspective was concerned, Emmy had an incredible show for Durango too. Across the way, I mean Maya did everything to set those things up too. Like, we can't not sleep on, or can't not give love to Maya. And then Basic had a really strong squad again, strong squad showing again. Excuse me. Those 4 kids brought it, but this week I think it was Evan and Maya who had noticeably good games for Basic. So I feel like everybody still had depth to show this week, and we got different layers to each team. We're still not done showing what we can do. So proud, right? Aren't you it's just so cool to see that feeling emerge from these two games for sure.
Well, and let's say, we did like, I don't know, basketball, baseball ways, like best 2 out of 3 or something, like just
Right.
what that could show still. So
Yeah.
yeah, I agree with you, but that at least should then be a good transition into at least talking about championship day, and what to be excited for.
Yeah, as this is on the horizon, I think everybody wants to be reminded of what they've been playing for. So break it down. We've got our all-star game kicking it off in the early portion of the day, and this is maybe the most epic all-star experience we've ever attempted. Tell us about it.
So the All-Star Show is special to Championship Day because it is one of the only things that has happened since day one of champ. Excuse my dogs. I apologize. So it's the only thing. It's one of the only things that has happened every single year on Championship Day. And really, what happens is we've always just kind of picked teams and games and everything right out of a hat, right on the spot. We play the Price is Right music. Like that has been
Mm-hmm.
always a way we do it. And come
Mm-hmm.
on down. Yep.
Whatever, I can't. It's almost John Cena's theme song, so I should just stop. Keep going.
So for this year, we have to treat it different, because we're trying to do this live and online.
Mm-hmm.
So we are going to essentially know pairings and teams a little bit before the actual championship day.
Yep.
We're going to have that, and we're also going to have coaches involved, which is something we've never done before either. So coaches are going to help these actual individual teams, and try and prepare. And who knows, depending on what they play, maybe when the coaches jump in and play a little bit too. Um,
That sounds awesome.
Right. So it's part of it is to help the structure and to make sure it goes as smooth as possible. We've got 27 all stars that we want to give an opportunity to shine. So that structure needs to be there. Also, just how to break that down in a timing scenario and making sure that there aren't 27 people on
Oh
a
yeah.
screen.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Yeah.
and we're gonna fit awards in between the All-Star show as well, because we have the awards coming. And then the awards themselves, the awards are what a lot of people walk away from championship day talking about.
Yeah.
So I know someone gets to hoist a trophy. The All-Star show is awesome. The All-Star show always has the biggest audience when we're in person. That's the proof in the pudding.
Yeah.
More
All the
people
family.
watch, right, the All-Star show, and sometimes not the championship, which is mind-blowing. So
Salty parents are like, my kids didn't make it to the finals, so I'm gonna root them on and then pull them out. But yeah, it's such a cool energy that comes about championship day, and I think you're really gearing up to provide us yet another special iconic series of memories. So kudos again. I said it last week a lot. Thank you for all your pivoting. I know a lot of hard work went and planning went into developing what you're about to do. I would love to help in any way I can, and that's just the way Jesters is. So we're hyping for yet another first for us, and let's see which teams get to feel that glow most directly. I mean, I think all of us get to feel the glow at this point. There are no losers in this season, and the final four who are left standing have been doing some of the most not energized, but certainly identifiable improv, right? These are four schools with identities and family like mentalities and approaches that are practiced, honed, but also still so flexible as this week proved. And I'm just so proud to see that my school made it this far. To be honest with you, there's just lots of pride here in me. Can't wait to really break down what we saw in these games. But first, I suppose we should probably meet the people who are deciding the matchup of the ages, right? We've got judges as always, and you're not the one to oh deviate from the new faces every week kind of pattern unless you have to. I imagine you brought in some really interesting names and faces for this. So let us in, man. Are we ready to talk judges?
sure, sure. And you know what? The new faces each week thing, I don't know if that was the goal initially. Here's the catch is that doesn't matter who we brought in to judge. There's nobody on the planet who has years of experience of online improv.
Mm-hmm.
So knowing that and what choices we made for judges made it definitely exceptional. And then even how to judge. So here's what I'll tell you before I even show you these judges is that I definitely spent the most time with these judges on these two shows
Oh
than
boy.
than we did on the rest. Just the amount of breakdown, talk, preparation. Um,
Wow.
so I mean, there was definitely extra time. There'll be plenty to talk about. But let me at least start with introducing the first judge.
Oh boy. Eh,
Um, and it had to be someone of epic stature, of course.
Oh yes, the Sam Elton, MVP extraordinaire. Maybe, gosh, a character creator who we haven't seen until Emmy has come into our worlds, right? Like Sam did so many amazing characters, sure, and brought so much fluid creativity to what she does. Like the fluidity to her improv and her expressive nature is just one of the most iconic kids I think I've ever seen perform, and has grown into an amazing adult performer as well. Appeared with the wild cards early on in our season, one of the first ones, right? The MVP squad. So what pedigree? Cool. Talk to us about Samantha Elton.
So here's a stat that probably won't ever be duplicated.
Oh
Samantha
boy.
Elton made it to, in her 4 years of being a jester, made it to the championship show all 4 years.
Oh yeah, that's not easy. No.
We're probably never see that again.
That's so cool.
Now in Sam's case, Sam lost all 4 championship shows. So
Oh,
Sam does not have a trophy to her name
oh,
minus MVP award. So for years, I have been asking Sam about judging, and Sam couldn't do it. Sam knows what the heartbreak is,
right.
right? So
Yeah.
getting her to agree to do it this year, I think was huge for her, huge for the league. Just to have a brain like that be able to be behind this,
Yeah.
because I think in Sam's case, Sam always had the ability to make the entire room shiny.
That's what I'm thinking too. Having Sam on this judging panel is cool because Sam loves improv and loves creativity and loves the artistry that goes into this and is so aware of what it takes that she probably is going to feel every single decision all of these 16 kids made that are being judged as part of this group. It's really very effective to have Sam here because kids, no matter what, you're going to feel loved and admired by Sam, because Sam can play up all of you and what you've done this week. So that's a nice feeling. That's a feel
And
coach pick or a judge pick.
and to connect all those thoughts, I think Sam's heart is an underdog heart. Now
Ooh.
in this particular scenario, she doesn't know who the underdogs are. So it was just a matter of judging and trying to figure it out and allowing her heart to make choices in the actual judging side. So yeah, this was huge for the league to get Sam in here to actually be this judge, and I was super happy to have
Oh
Sam.
man. Very cool. Very
So
cool.
someone who, of course, has been through the Final Four times. So
Amazing.
right,
Yeah.
exactly.
Pressure cooked diamond is Sam. I mean, been through plenty of pressure. Is Sam? No, there's not. There's definitely more.
Oh
Good.
yeah, it's not just that.
I'm
I think
like, hey, nice. We've got one easy, like, friendly person to impress. We're gonna be fine. I'm just kidding. Sam's probably not easy per se, but definitely aware of the choices we make. No way. Bradley Calder, that is awesome that he made himself available and was around and on hand for this judging. Another fantastic MVP of the past, one half of the Creamy Boys, as we called them back in their days, where they played for Palo, right?
indeed.
I'm gosh, please, yes, thank you. They played for Palo. They were right before my time as a coach, but boy, maybe one half of the duo that revolutionized just how far this league could reach as far as acquiring, inspiring, and elevating talent. Brad's gone on to have an amazing career as a photographer and a writer. So tell us about Bradley Calder in your words. Great to see him again.
Well, I mean, first off, when I asked these two, hey, give me a picture I can show of you, and this is the picture Brad gives me, it just reminds me of Brad just in general. You know, connecting some of these dots. So we just talked about Sam's 4 championships. Well, 2 of those championships were against this guy.
Yeah, man.
And this guy has both of those trophies, of course, and
Yep.
of course his MVP year, which was 2011.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I in the Final Four especially like to put judges together that have the Final Four experience and possibly even have had the experience against each other. I remember a Final Four year where I had the judges as Audrey Radiff from Northwest and Amber Austin from Bonanza, because they had a
Mm-hmm.
pretty epic Final Four showdown years ago.
Mm-hmm.
So in these particular cases, these two had championship experience against each other, and essentially it was always Sam against Brad and Danny, right? That's what those years were. It was Sam against Brad and Danny. Uh,
So good.
we even joked. We even joked in setting this up, just when we were doing the whole catch up. Hey, what are you doing with your life? Sam's telling us about her 2 kids, because Sam has 2 kids now.
Yep.
And then I said, yeah, Brad. She named them Brad and Danny. Her 2 kids, they're named Brad and Danny.
Ah. There's no trauma if that were the case, by the way. Like, I don't know. Brad, Danny, get over here. Quit being better at improv than me. Hurry up.
So, in Brad's case, as a performer, as who he is and what he is, he wanted it so bad from the start. I mean, he was someone who was constantly pushing the envelope, who broke every rule that we gave him. He wanted everything that he got as bad as anyone I've ever known that wanted it. And then immediately after high school, did the whole move to LA thing.
Yep.
Him and Danny are definitely walking 2 different paths right now in their adult life, but this is something that's so dear in their heart. Brad asked me, I mean, the first thing that they asked was, how did we do it? Like, how did this league pull this off and get to this point?
Oh,
Um,
awesome.
and he
That's so
said that
cool.
he's talked to a lot of colleagues and people that he's worked with since his Jester days, and they explained how doing everything online was impossible, and they just couldn't. Just people that he knew are good and good teachers and good performers and whatnot, and they just couldn't pull it off. So he said, how did
Wow.
we do it? How are we here? Um, and Brad had a blast. Brad had a blast watching this and
Oh,
laughing and enjoying it, and it was cool because this was the first time judging for both of them,
oh
and
yeah.
to have them together was pretty cool.
So yeah, that definitely spoils multiple times another name we're about to see. But Bradley Calder, such a cool person I've gotten to meet only a handful of times, but definitely somebody who's got that aura that makes me the I'm not sure I could ever perform to your level kind of mentality go, you're amazing and I'm just glad you're around me, Brad. He's just a funny, incredibly witty and another person and another really fluid mind, man. Just it takes a creator who can absolutely never look phased to beat out Sam Elton as many times as he did. And Bradley Calder is one of the greatest performers to come out of Jesters for sure. One of the, and an amazing creative mind, just super cool guy. So great to know he's here. And it sounds like he's not the only creamy boy we've got on the judging panel.
It's just Brad and Sam.
Oh, I was just checking. Okay, so only
Right.
two.
Well, because we only had 2 shows, we didn't need more judges to cover more spots this week. Uh,
You were
but in Danny's case, Danny does send his love, because we did talk to Danny.
nice.
And Danny's in New York now, and he's working on a TV show for Adult Swim. He's doing all sorts of stuff.
Wow, that's so fair, correct, and awesome. Sorry, I could have sworn you were dropping hints that Danny was here too. It might be how comparatively early in the morning it is for me that we're recording this and the 36 hours I've gone without sleep. But Brad, Sam, great brains. These folks know Final Four improv. They know what the scales become and what the performers need to do to pull out surprises, and surprises they did. Are we ready to shake down how this Final Four turned out?
I think so.
Uh, so
So as we've done so far this year, excuse me, we'll start at the top of the bracket,
Uh-huh.
which means you.
Well, a different Warren sits before you from last week, one that is certainly humbled and grateful for the opportunity to have been a Final Four coach at last. And a fantastic matchup was on the horizon with ATECH. Song and I had had conversations throughout the year about how we kind of hoped our teams would find a way to meet each other at this stage of the playoffs. And it happened against my odds in my mind because I'm ready to lose a lot, but we are here and Del Sol deserves to be here. And I think the show that came out of this week certainly did show why both teams belong here. Son, I want to say right off the bat, you coached a super great show from your ATECH kids. The energy the four of you brought into this, like I was just constantly feeling humbled and grateful because I know that Del Sol's brought a lot of physicality into the digital world. And I know you were really putting that in their heads. I could just feel it because of how much amazing energy was flowing from you guys. From game to game, I was just like, man, the focus. Jessica, especially for me, was just so honed in this week, just laser focused on doing clever outside the box thinking. Some really good gut busters came from Jessica, especially. And Jonathan, I've loved since I met him. Knowing that he was poised for a matchup like this was exciting for me because I know, of course, I go into the matchup with the kids and I'm like, guys, we just got to make sure Jonathan isn't the hypest of us all, because he was going to be, and I think it just trickled down to the rest of his team. And boy, they just gave it to him. I liked seeing Nick. I hadn't seen Nick before personally, and so watching him gave me a fun, like, oh, this is obviously a comedy brain, totally just here to help provide the flavor. What a cool flavor he's going to give. I knew immediately that was going to be interesting to see what kind of acidity he would bring to their comedy. And then Savannah also just focused too, like staring at the screen so intently, the cameras, I could feel all of them there wanting to have the best show of their lives, begging to do so. And really, I think you guys succeeded. I was really happy to see how intense this matchup was. But, Del Sol has a lot of things we did this week that were going to be surprising and raise eyebrows, I think, at least in my brain, knowing how I typically coach and how much we typically prepare and how much I would have liked, a little bit more time. But at the end of the day, it's kind of interesting. I kind of embraced the spirit of the Final Four, I guess, inadvertently, and said, well, normally I wouldn't even get time to prepare anyway. So let's go. Um, but before we switch over to my school, I do want to say great radio from ATECH. Um, Jonathan got the Forgotten Friends character, and watching him scramble around from trying to give that character he created some attention to justifying why he would make a fantastic Jennifer Aniston was just a real fun, clever, and silly suggestion fruition. I don't know what to say. Like really fun way that came about. Savannah, Polka Country with that character too. I was hoping we would get some singing. Um, and you, being a wonderful storyteller, was able to create around that, doing your style of improv to balance that out. And with the fun cowboy hat on top, just a great visual. Nick's Diary of a Flat Basketball told me exactly what kind of a brain Nick is. Somebody who can certainly use comedy to scramble into any situation and make it fun. His voice of the flat basketball, and his anecdotes were really fun in that one. Great balance. Jessica's doctor for ants too. Amazing energy, such a voice does Jessica have. One of my favorite games from the show from ATECH, and especially because of Jessica. The double glasses justification was very intense, but totally easy to adore. Um, and that was one of my favorites from them. They also played a deleted scenes, which is cool to see this late in the year. And when I was given Son suggestions for these, and I love how this turned out because she had just gotten done giving me suggestions for storyteller, which quite frankly, in our Del Sol lineup was so random. Like I felt like, man, these suggestions are going to be tough for them to fuse together in a story about limes. And on the other side with deleted scenes, I mean, Son asked me, "Can you give me movies you think are under the radar?" Right? And didn't want me to go straight for ones that everybody would know, except for one, Pirates of the Caribbean. The other two, she wanted ones that maybe folks hadn't seen. And I was really impressed with the creativity that they displayed. I love watching the commitment players put into suggestions they don't know. Like for all of the hype we get out of people doing really good impressions of folks they see or characters they're aware of, it's so much fun to watch improvisers scramble through stuff they like. What are you doing? Number 23, that terrible bomb from Jim Carrey from like 12 years ago, or Collateral, the forgotten movie that has Jamie Foxx traveling around in a taxi all night with a serial killer version of Tom Cruise. Go watch the movies. They're great if you're of the appropriate age. I think they're both rated R. Ask your parents. But like for their scenes and deleted scenes, they had nothing to do with that, nor should have they, right? And it was just really great to see what their creative perception led to for that. We saw Monkey Mirror from ATECH, like Atlantis and Car Factory. One of my favorite pairings of scenes I could have thrown at Son just to try to see what kind of physical motions would be juxtaposed across from each other. And those four kids, like that's where I saw especially they were definitely watching Del Sol and doing their homework because they never stopped moving. They never stopped finding a different physical position to justify into their work. The hustle was so evident from ATECH there. They had a great show. What do you think of ATECH's catalog this week?
I think part of my impression of this show and both shows is the change of lineup structure.
Ah,
So all year we followed a very specific structure with Kopy challenges and whatnot, and
right.
then the final four added to it. So we had two agreed games where we watched two games that were going to be played by both teams. We did have a Kopy challenge and then choices from there.
Mhm.
So for me, I thought both shows, and particularly this one too, started off with a bang with the four reverses. Um,
Yes.
I thought that was a great choice to start this show, and then to see Del Sol in person, which they haven't had a chance to do that at least in the filming side yet this year. And then I mean the first choice was Mia Army log rolling in, right?
Yep.
And I mean, and Mia's that kind of just stoic performer to where Mia's probably going to go for that anyway. So, that was my first impression out of the gate was forward reverse. It was just like, yes, this is it. This is how we start a show.
Oh,
Um,
good.
and
Good.
then Robin too. So getting Robin in there with Wiggly, like Robin, I think out of the gate knew, man, I made a big choice. How do
Yes.
I how do I duplicate this choice when Warren's gonna murder me in the forward reverse system? Um, so that I mean that stood out right away for sure.
And okay, so Del Sol decided to perform in person, not necessarily because we wanted to, but because of a few different factors. Number one, that was for Kayla Wagner, our advisor, our teacher, who's been sitting in and watching practice with us for sometimes far longer than we should have every week, talking and talking and working and working. She's been a huge part of it this year. And I think Miss Wagner in her heart really wanted to see these kids play in person one more time because she's about to sadly leave Del Sol and Las Vegas Valley. It's a very hard advisor to lose at this point because we've bonded a lot over this year watching these kids blossom. And so that was mainly from Wagner. She's the one who came up with the mask idea that we ended up purchasing. She and I went in on halves on those masks you saw the kids wear over their mouth and nose so that we could see their faces while they played. I also
Those,
need to,
those
yeah.
are expensive.
We love the
I've
kids.
got I've got a whole box of them right here. They're expensive.
We love the kids. Had to do it. And, Robin hit me up Wednesday evening and said, Warren, coach, everybody, tomorrow's it. I don't really have time over the weekend. So here we go. And I love that moment from Robin because Robin's been an amazingly poised performer for us all year, doing exactly what she's needed to do for us. And now it was time for us to just kind of trust our improv. And that needed to happen this week. Just go in. We were going to play 4 games we've never played before, plus one that we were practicing and we're slightly afraid of this whole year in Inception. And I just like so many things went into this day. But the filming in person was for Robin. The filming in person was for Miss Wagner. Special thanks to Speedy Matheson and Chanel Figueroa, who wanted to be my film crew. You didn't end up using even my footage from my computer that I've gotten so used to using, or my beautiful microphone, because what worked better was Speedy's footage. And I'm glad we had some options for you because clearly it came in handy at least a couple minutes into bartender. Um, but then there's that, right? Our lineup, like I wanted these kids to swing and I wanted them to be themselves. I wanted them to be fearless. I just wanted them to do an improv show we would be proud of if it had to stop here. So I felt in my gut that it was so cool we ended up with Adina as our fourth. Adina's story, surprise, surprise, an amazing playoff story for sure already for Adina, but she's kind of been a dragon and is a dragon. And I wanted her to perform with these seniors in a moment that mattered. And she took those moments and grabbed it. And I know we're leading up to the game where she emerged. I think she had an emerging game in this. But just so proud of what became of our Final Four show because we could have, in real life, I probably could have refilmed a couple of those and I think the kids would have wanted to too, but they stood by themselves. They haven't been sending me text messages since going like, I'm super scared and nervous. I think they love what they did. I think they love who they are. And I'm so proud of them for that. I wanted them to just stand and deliver and not look back this week. And I think they really did that. Sorry, that was the whole Del Sol tangent when you only touched on a portion of it. You had to know that was going to happen. But
Well, and I think there's still more to even talk about. And make sure that I talk about this exact note when we get to Durango and Basic. But
okay,
all four teams definitely had their struggles and their fears and their anxieties tested this week.
right.
And it all came back to me, and I got to help in different ways on different things. And so you gave a good play of kind of what Del Sol went through on the ATECH side of it to at least give some of what they went through.
I'd love to hear it.
So Jonathan and Nick both got their second vaccine this week.
Oh,
So that whole like that sickness thing, like that
mhm.
for Nick especially, that hit. So they had to actually split recording because Nick just couldn't. He was down and out.
Oh, poor guy.
Um, yeah, and then Jonathan, some of the recording happened while Jonathan was in the middle of it, and he just found a way to power through it. And then Savannah, it was her 18th birthday this week, and
Right.
Savannah even said to us, "Hey, I only turned 18 once."
Hey, you know what? Just saying, happy birthday, Savannah,
Yeah,
18. Absolutely. Friday was Mia's 18th. So happy birthday to Mia
that is
as
Savannah's
well.
birthday too. It was Friday.
Well, there you go. Mia and Savannah, it was fate you two would play on your birthdays
Yep.
for this incredible opportunity. Great stuff. And you're right. I did leave out stuff that we could say about both schools, especially. Um,
So, but I mean, that at least goes to the story of the Final Four this
yep.
week. You were talking about games you haven't played, all four teams in the same boat. Like it's just everyone really wanted to make the best impression possible.
Yep.
So, and I think we did. So,
Do you,
even on your masks, like even Sam and Brad, the judges were just like, how do those not fog up? Like, I don't get
Yay.
it.
Yeah, we were all so the energy was real. And I think as soon as we started hitting record in that room, I was like, wow, this is actually feeling more like Del Sol from last year. The in-person energy was so explosive. Mia, I think Mia's been honed by the online experience, honed and focused. So getting Mia in person was going to see a return of the energy that I think was so indicative of early years Mia. So I was like, cool, can Mia balance the energy with strong improvisational choices? And I feel like Mia did an amazing job kind of following the leader this week with Christian. Christian had an epic show in my heart.
Yep.
The pivotal Christian experience, friendly reminder of what he can do. So many of the situations he was in, he just wanted to be the guy. And I wasn't going to take it from him. He was our captain this week. All three students kind of got a chance. All three seniors got a chance this playoff to lead their way. And Christian was my guy being ready to do anything.
Right.
And man, I will never ever downplay Christian's talent. Such an unbelievable show. Um and that bartender that he did, I mean, when I first saw our first take that eventually made me go, let's go in this direction. It Christian has a dedication to his performance, yes, but he has this nervous energy that exists within his performances. That's just his texture of improv that I think acquits him of some things, but also, you gotta make sure the overall product performs beyond that nervous energy. Prove to us you're not nervous if you sound like it. And I feel like every second of Christian's brain paid off with what we were doing. Just fun, solid, clever, in the pocket, adaptable stuff. And
Yep.
I think all the other kids in that group helped reinforce him this week. Go ahead. Sorry.
Well, and so I mean, if we start with forward reverse on both sides, which to me was gangbusters,
Right.
I know the
Good.
judges responded right away with Savannah and Jonathan's big choices out of the gate for forward reverse.
Yep. I
Um,
put pants on that same way, Savannah. Douche. Douche. Every time, man. Yeah. I'm totally there.
and
Um,
then the next two games, the choices were bartender and radio, and I mean we touched on it at least a hair. Um, I, at least I don't know Christian to be like a natural improvised singer. Like improvised singing's tough, y'all,
so
and the
hard.
amount that the league tried to do it this year was actually pretty cool.
Yep.
So to go for it in a Final Four matchup and be that person, like it's not a game where everyone was singing. It was, I mean, the load was on Christian's shoulders.
Yep.
So that was pretty cool, like for sure. And then there are creative ways of getting there to just using the suggestions and
Yep.
setting some pieces up. That's pivotal too.
Good.
That I've played that game probably literally 1,000 times, and that's I've been in that setup role 1,000 times, and I know how important that is. Um,
When I was
so
watching it happen in front of me, I was thinking like I've seen many bartenders too, and of course the ones that I remember most are Brent's brown-eyed girl takes over
yeah,
at from years past, and I so watching it, of course it wasn't that, but I was like, but it's so uniquely us
mhm,
that if I don't do it, it's just an indictment on my endorsement in these kids' creativity. Like I couldn't not let that happen. They deserve to let that be seen.
right.
Fun stuff. Go ahead. Sorry.
And then you just kind of go down the line, and
Yeah.
each one of these games has its own fun and flavor to it. I mean, depending on how much more we're gonna dive into this, I'd love to at least dive into family dinner on both sides.
Okay.
I mean, Haley Garcia, your family sounds like it was literally written to be a movie.
Yeah.
Like,
Dude, Haley, we said that. Like, what an insane team, what an insane family. I thought Haley was gonna micromanage us a whole lot more in that game. I encouraged it. I said, push these kids to find the real core of the family. And she didn't have to. They just kind of went straight to it, didn't they? I mean,
yeah,
according to
man.
Haley.
Everything that Haley was saying, I was just like, what? Like, there's no way. This is real.
Right? Yeah.
And then as the game was going on, like even one of the corrections she gave you, she's like, "Yeah, we would end up fist fighting about this." What?
Right? I
So, I
it's
mean,
like what a mature and composed adult that's come from this fantastically erratic family, and she was loving every second of it watching those kids play it.
right? Adina falling down as grandpa, and this is like, "No, we don't help out grandpa." But like,
I agree. What a great pop for me. It's just sitting there. I had so much nervous energy from the filming, like just existing in this pocket of improv, that it was so refreshing for Haley to just be funny for me and just
yeah.
help me laugh. And she did. She did so many times.
I think there was so much gold that was given by Haley and used by the performers that you didn't even need to get to everything. Like there was just so much. We didn't need all these pieces. I don't know if we hit amputee at any point, right? Like
No,
I don't
no.
know, and maybe I missed it if there was, but there was
I,
just a bunch of those little gems. Were just like, man, there's just so much here. This game could have been an hour.
early Mia loved being amputated. Like, I don't know if you remember this, but freshman and sophomore Mia both played pivotal characters during their season of having a lost limb. So as soon as Haley said amputee, I looked right at Mia and went, "Ah, this one's for you. I've been telling you, quit losing your limbs. You get to lose a limb." So the fact that you're right, I think that one, there were a couple
There are a
little
couple like that. Yeah.
of personalities that were missed, but I think they took what they wanted and still
Yeah.
had plenty of fun with.
Plenty.
And
Plenty.
Robin in the middle as mom,
Yep.
like wanting to go to the club. That was the character Robin should have been. Love the choices from each of them. Think
Yep.
they did the right things.
And then you flip this over to ATEC on
Yes.
Cameron's story,
Cameron's
and
story. Oh my
just the
goodness.
just the one group mind way of backwards hatting Cameron's family that they all did. Just at the end of that, I'm just like, holy cow, man! They all just picked up on that and ran with it. And it
Yep.
was a detail that he didn't even talk about. It was just a dab that ATEC put on that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and how they did it. And I'm mad too. So I've known Cameron Latimer way longer than I've known Haley Garcia. And the stuff that Cameron was saying, I didn't know. And I'm
Mm.
mad. I didn't know his dad was in the NFL.
Right?
Um,
Made
so
sense though when he said it. I was like, oh, okay.
so yeah, to listen to that and then just their interpretations of that.
Yep.
This is a great way to start. Like the bookends of this show were really good. So super happy with what we got to see, how it all boiled down. Judges
Jessica,
too.
Jessica with the small dad joke in that was just good classic A1 comedy. Like I
Yeah.
love that. And Savannah's yes ands as I think the brother character for Cameron was so funny. Great pattern of patterning, like just doing improv talk. Funny. And it looked like Cameron had a blast watching it. Of course, that's a big part of it. Um, Before you turn to judges, can I just say Inception happened? Like
Oh,
Del
oh
Sol
yeah, yeah,
did
yeah.
it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Um, Inception was a special game for me to see played because I think the kids had been circling it for years. Christian's been wanting to play it since his sophomore year when we saw the transplendent version of Tuacon way back in their championship year. That inspired Christian to no end. And when we decided to run it, the conversation came up very quickly. It was his idea to run Adina as the person with the issue because they so often need to manifest their own solution. And what happened in that game is not only did Christian get to receive it or get to live out a dream he's been hoping for, playing Inception at long last, plus in person, big treat for Del Sol. Like, let's not downplay that. They wanted to be together. Plus, this was Adina's moment. If you ask me, this was Adina's absolute magnum opus to this point in her improv life. And I'm so grateful because everything she said, though, to lead into the justifications was pure Adina in her heart, I think. I felt that. Like it was a moment, I think, that was real for her to step up and take her success, as she put it herself. So proud of that game.
But there were two really key pivotal moments in that game, and one is the moment you're talking about, and I'll highlight in a second. But before that was on their initial sleep machine attempt when
Yes,
Adina went down first, and then Chris. So there was that what could have been the awkward moment,
so awkward.
and
Yep.
they turned that into gold.
Yay!
Like
I'm so
Christian
glad you
and
say that.
Adina took that moment, turned it into gold, and that's what I mean. That's something on the first day of improv or early in the year you would see just turn into a wreck.
Yep.
So to see that in Final Four was awesome. And then
Yep.
yes, Adina's switch, what took Inception back towards the fall, like that was it. That's exactly what my thought was too. I was just like, ooh, gauntlet, go.
I watched
So
Inception 3 times to appreciate what it was for me as a coach, because I wanted to get these kids in a place where they were confident enough to try the game, and they did it on a day where they shouldn't. I mean, if they had any right to go, hey Warren, can we pump the brakes on your avant-garde decision making real quick? If they had any right to do that, it was that day, and I don't think, watching that inception, I don't think I'll ever regret what we did. I just
Yeah,
don't.
and you shouldn't.
I think that game was everything we all had worked together
Right,
for 3 years,
right.
counting Adina's time with us only, but 4 years for the rest, obviously. Very proud of that game and grateful, 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 grateful that those kids were brave enough to go into it.
As you
Now
should.
I feel like we've hit everybody, right?
Yeah, I think we've definitely given this show as much love as it needs and deserves. Now, here's the unfortunate thing is that with 4 teams, 2 of them will advance.
Right.
So as all of the playoffs have been, the teams advancing, that isn't necessarily a slight on the other team. The process is a part of this league. Going through this process is a part of it. All 4 teams going through their anxiety this week, that's a part of it. How tired we are, playing through your vaccine shots. Like,
Yeah.
just, I mean, that is all a part of the process.
Yep.
So,
What a
I will,
process.
exactly. I will share.
Okay, so I legitimately do not know the result of this, as has been the case throughout the entire playoff. But I'm just letting y'all know. This is very much from the heart. I sit before you a different coach than last week because Del Sol had a step forward, and now everything else we were doing this year was going to be for casino money. Yeah, it's on the house. We're just grateful to be here, grateful to do what we did, grateful for the show. If this is the end, then my 3 seniors have nothing on the table that they didn't throw out there. They all did amazing things this past week in this show, and they should be so proud of the lineup they chose to run with, and that they powered through, and that they produced. And Adina, finally, at long last, I pray you watch this at least 16 times so you remember the lessons you taught us in the scene, because you're ready to be our president next year. And this was a great passing of the torch if it was intended to be. For ATECH, your energy was transplendent, transcendent. You came and brought it more so than I could even perceive. And as a coach who wants to be treated with respect as an improv mind, I was grateful to see everything you brought to the table to give us a show. And I think it was a show. So I'm ready as I'll ever be. If this is the end for ATECH, bless you guys. You guys have been so amazing all year. Jonathan, thank you for the fountain of amazing talent you have allowed the other students to benefit from. You've created so many capable minds there. Coach Song, with the help of an MVP caliber player in Jonathan Perez. It's like watching young Jim Carrey, who's one of my favorite actors. I love watching Jonathan work. If he gets to go to the championship, it's because they earned it and they played great digital improv. Absolutely. Yeah. So let's find out. I'm so excited, but also scared and also queasy and maybe gassy and a little exhausted. 36 hours of being awake. Let's go.
So, the first team going to this year's 2021 championship
Oh my
is
gosh. Okay. Thank you very much for the show, ATECH. We are very, very grateful for the opportunity to work with you. Del Sol guys, take nothing away. You worked so hard. You worked so hard. You were so close. You earn all the love in your heart. Thank you guys. We had a great run.
well, then we are flipping to the other side.
Yep.
Uh, so Durango and Basic, uh, I'm going to start off with the note I said I want to remember, and that was just simply the anxiety and the story and the things that went into it. I would say even more so than Del Sol and ATECH, these are 2 very different teams, Durango and Basic. So 2 very different styles. Everything about what they do is very, very different. Now, these are 2 teams that made it to the Final Four in the past,
Yep.
have never made it to a championship. So we know in Del Sol's case, Del Sol has a championship trophy, but
Right.
in this case, no one's ever made it. Now, in their coach's case, Karina was the coach when they made it to the Final Four. And in Basic's case, Cassie's actually, as a performer, was a part of a championship run. So
Mm-hmm.
to where her team got to actually make it. But these students, this will be a first for all of them.
Yep.
And then the same thing, that anxiety, what do we do? How do we do it? Basic, I mean, Cassie and the coaches at Basic kind of tore my head off. Like, do we change everything? Like, what do we do? How do we do this? And then Durango, same thing. Just man, I mean, Durango had to stop and come back and refill. Like that anxiety was real. Like it was really real. So I don't know what anyone's opinion is going into the show, but if you think that there was a team that had a clear edge, that's not the case at all. Both of these teams had to earn it this week.
Yeah, and I knew it would be. I mean, Basic's been doing amazing storytelling. We've said it every single week. Durango too, in a much more, I'm going to say, abstract way. Durango approaches their storytelling, and this was going to be a matchup that was going to bring out the best in both teams.
Yep.
And I think we saw a lot of that very early on with Durango, starting off with their newlywed game. I mean, I put Emmy's name in my notes with stars for this game. Just everything Emmy does. This is where she portrayed an elder man, and just another fantastic character to add to the catalog. Emmy, so ready for radio. Josh got to do that amazing two-faced cameo I referenced earlier in this, playing his own newlywed couple with distinct looks on either side of his face, and that was awesome. I love that execution, truly very good. And I loved the decision on good on New Moon. Made me laugh for Margaret's character. New Moon from the Twilight series. Wally as well. Fun jokes. And it was nice to see so many different takes on their character work. Alicia using a robot voice
Right.
to help emphasize the robotic character for her was really cool. And on the other side with Basics, you know, it was cool to see two friends of Jesters come in, and
Right.
two adults come in and sit in, Mr. Hawkins and Lisa, I believe her name was. They played the game as a real couple, which was just so fun and made me think, gosh, we should just try to play this game more often when we're in person to get audience and engagement, and have them come up and be part of the fun, because what an easy game to be included in the experience for, right? Everybody likes game shows. They'll try it.
Well,
Uh,
and then this goes to the same token as the Del Sol ATECH show. They started the show this way. For me, again, gangbusters. And this was a game that neither team knew going
uh,
into this. So coming into this kind of blind with Basics approach, so that was their theater teacher. Mr. Culkin is their theater teacher, and that was his wife. So just that very simple, natural approach with bringing in a real couple like that, and then letting the performers uh, be characters and do their improv around it. That just adds such a touch to a game. And then Cassie's just very sweet natured way of talking and hosting things in general, hosting that. And then on the newlywed side for Durango, I mean, Karina actually trying to play. Like it's been a while since I've seen Karina
yeah,
actually try and play.
yeah, that was a cool treat seeing Karina play the game. That's very
So
true.
yeah, Karina, I can't get her up to do coaches shows. Like Karina just won't. Karina loves being the coach, and that's kind of where Karina is. So even Josh's choice to play both characters in that, like that was a choice. Like
Yep.
they asked me, how do we do this? What should we do? They have another player that they decided not to roll with, that to use it as Josh. They were going to use a neutral person, kind of like Mr. Culkin. It was just a choice to let Josh try and roll both. And boy, I think that choice paid off. It just, how strong was that? So this was a really good example of what these two teams do well right out of the gate. And it just started off the show brilliantly. And then
Hmm.
you go into their next two choices, which was Dime Store and Naive Replay, and
Right.
it's just like, man, let's just keep this train rolling.
Got to buckle up and see some dime store novel in this stage of the playoffs from Durango, and I was just happy to see it. Most certainly. Emmy plays bad housewife, ready to take advantage of silly husband leaving his typewriter out, and in she goes to type out her manifesto, right? And everybody got a chance to play with this, tug it around, see what it could do. And I will say Maya's subtle character nuances, they really change with every scene. Like this one was talking a little bit from the side of her mouth and rubbing her hair behind her ears and like being really engaged and pseudo flirty. Really great mannerisms from Maya on display here. Another reason why she's such a stalwart in the MVP conversations. One of my favorite lines of the week came from Emmy here with "Wait a hickory dickory minute. Did I just say no cankles?" Like, if you're gonna go in and edit the story, like what a line to make it memorable, right? I just loved that, Emmy. Great choice. And Alicia went walking through the house for this one, helping to change up the perspective. Great choice. Always happy to see the camera move. And
Yeah,
yes.
I think especially on Alicia's side, Alicia probably had the most adjusting to do, because Alicia's character when they came in was kind of where Emmy was really given the shift. Oh, it's a bigger cane, it's whatever. So, and then Alicia's choice of walking away. There was a point where Alicia was so far back in her house where I was like, I don't know if Alicia could hear what they're saying. So just the constant shifting Alicia went through was quite admirable as a performer. And then all I was thinking, like once they started talking about Freddie, I was like, I hope Demetrius just comes in and dies immediately. Like that's what I'm hoping happens to this character. And it was pretty close to that.
Hmm.
It was pretty close, but yeah, just this is a game that they've done pretty well all year on Dime Store Novel,
Oh
and
yeah.
no
It,
exception here for sure.
they've been trendsetters of this one for years, so it was going to be coming.
Right.
Great stuff. Basic combats that with a naive
Naive.
replay, right? I was excited to see that played too. They really found that earlier in the year to be a game they could play with confidence. In it comes. Um,
Sam and Brad as the judges were, I mean, I think we were convinced at one point that they scripted this game. Like they just made that stuff fit so well. I just Evan's insertion as the second spot to Maya's really strong setup. Just it felt like they really scripted that thing. Like, and that's not how this game normally goes. It normally doesn't fit that beautifully. And then
sure.
even the one possible hiccup at the end where Jacob came in as double Susan,
Right.
just I mean, that's what Brad and Sam talked about. They're just like, man, did he brilliantly find his way out of that one hiccup? Like, gosh, it was pretty masterful how they put this scene together.
The performance of "I don't even know who I am anymore"
Right.
was one of my favorite parts of the whole show. You know, for all the love that Jacob's been getting leading into these playoffs and throughout them, I want to say Evan and Maya both brought moments that were among my favorite of the week period. And Evan had just a great show this week in personally. It was
Yep.
great to see him take the first character. I was curious to see how it would pull out, you know, like it was a different format approaching the replays than they did previously. So I was immediately like, "Ooh, let's see what happens." And yeah, I think Jacob did play it off well. Even if he didn't feel like it, it was pretty clear at the end of the game. He was felt pretty deflated.
Right.
Please don't. You tap danced your way beautifully out of that.
Oh yeah.
Um,
Absolutely.
and the daughter versus girlfriend definition of misogyny line was so funny. All of that was just really great in the moment. Like listen to what you're hearing and simply say the appropriate response. My favorite type of improv.
Right.
Evan did well there. And yeah, it was great to see that game reprised, played a little differently, and pulled off, most certainly.
Yeah, absolutely. And if we're kind of going chronologically, and that's okay.
Sure.
Your next two games were Thought Bubble. I Hate It When Bob. I
Yep.
think this was the first real technical issue that we've had of the Final Four. Was Emmy's part of Thought Bubble, and they just kind of rolled with it, and they figured that out.
Uh-huh.
I Hate It When Bob. That was probably the most aggressive Bob we've seen out of any team this year.
Yeah, my big notes from this, with Thought Bubble especially, was that it was nice to see Emmy and Maya allow the other two students be the ones to run the story, at least on paper.
Right.
And then you could see how much impact they have as Emmy and Maya begin to push the pace as the game goes on.
Right.
like just trying to get maybe something bigger to happen here or there. And I could hear those choices and those nudges. Very, very good. The Scottish, Irish, Wisconsin-ish native wordplay and accent work was so silly and fun. And I want to say that Yippee Kaye from Alicia near the end of the scene got a good pop on my end. Just great use of words and verbiage from Alicia here. Have been waiting for two students to kiss the camera and have that moment all year. So the tease was appropriate.
Right.
The payoff didn't happen, to have that moment happen, but it was something that I've been expecting folks to do for a
Right.
while, and it was so close on this one.
Yeah.
But it was a fun swerve, totally
Right.
fun. And it was a good funny finish too, with Maya challenging Alicia to more appropriately pronounce the word Wisconsin.
Right.
That was just, again, real funny in the moment, listening to what you hear, giving funny responses, improv. Like,
Right.
that was just great.
Right. And then yeah, Bob on the other side. I mean, I don't know if I've ever seen Bob come back 4 or 5 times with the in and out, and that for me, especially on basic side, because basic's so strategic and they've got such a way of doing things. This was definitely a climb for them to make those adjustments and almost add layers. So which is really cool to see how much we got Bob in there. And then even Cassie even asked me advice wise, like, who should be Bob? And Cassie says, I can make a case for everyone to be Bob.
Right.
Um,
And
so
she definitely could with that team, but I felt like Lily needed to be Bob for all
yeah,
the
I agree.
experience Lily had in this league. Like, Lily has been the foundation of this basic team the whole way up, right? In
Right.
in love with this, impassioned by it, hungry to do it better all the time. So yeah, let Lily go out and do all of what Lily can do to help this role shine. And there were some erratic, crazy, off the wall suggestions. No doubt about it. And you absolutely did it with all the moxie I expected you to, Lily, from your boogie skills with your Macarena and snot experience. And the play with Jacob here, I loved his coach's face, like another student who understands the power of facial expressions. I didn't see facial expressions from Jacob that I'd seen before from him in this one, bringing out some different personas, and I really respected that. Um, say goodbye to Bobby for the last time was funny. Kudos to Lily for going full tilt, trying to cram in so many quirks. Like, that's not easy to do. There was a
Even
lot.
just that line, it's Bobby. Like that's owning
Yes,
Bob, man. That's just living in Bob.
that's
So
right.
and then on the tail, the last tail of or going towards the end of the show,
Right.
the pillars and the what back to back. Um, I mean, how powerful what was, and then Durango's take on pillars, like
With Pillars, it's one of those games for me, like, I wouldn't want to play it in a playoff in real life because of how I think it limits two of the four players in its traditional format. So as I was watching it, I was thrilled to realize that Alicia and Maya were going to be running around their house finding family members to tag for their pillars. Great stuff. And then, of course, that it creates intrigue around everybody else. As soon as they come in, I just want to see who, how they're going to play this off and continue to present the scene. And they did it in a really fun, unique way. I love the way they approach the game execution wise. Wow, why do you keep children in the corner was one of my favorite lines from this one, and a real great camera play. Maya's been nailing that a lot, especially in the last 2 weeks. Not necessarily doing a lot of perspective changes, but doing perspective changes that are calculated and have like a great visual to them. So you had Maya's face in the corner, and you had over her shoulder one of the audience members, one of her family members, I'm assuming, a young boy who was sitting in the background. Great shot there. Lots just of really cool moments in that Pillars. That was great to see played so well in a playoff game. Like, again, another reason why Durango's teaching me stuff, right?
right,
With what? You're right. Absolutely. The immediate motivation shift was really impressive right off the bat from Maya, going from being a character to want to do one thing to completely changing the entire foundation of the scene, therefore, with that choice. I thought that was brave and taken very well, and the kids just ran with it. But Maya, again, continued to have a really great game here, eventually leading some physicality up into headbutting her computer. And you can hear
Yeah.
probably her hair hitting the mic, I'm
Right.
hoping, because
Right.
it sounded like her head making contact with something, and she played that so committed and so well. It was maybe my favorite off the wall choice of the weekend. Like, just saying, so funny and so commendable. Um, Evan comes in with some threats, gets wutted on that too. His threats were really like clever and I thought phenomenal. I was almost sad they got wutted. Uh, near the end, Jacob's the school announcer in the news, and he's getting recruited by Evan's giant character. And when he said, "That's been the news. Play the photo reel," I laughed because I remember my school news when I was a high school student and them having those little gag reels at the end every week, and that just took me way back and reminded me, oh my God, these are high school kids, right? They're still just kids and they're still doing normal high school stuff. Uh, Really cool little nod there. It was a really fun, strong pair of games from both teams,
And then they closed the radio and got to
right?
show off who they all were
Yeah.
and have those individual moments. So um, yeah,
Maya's
I mean,
tiny Mario apartment. Oh my goodness.
I I mean, Evans, Shrek, and Donkey fight.
Yes. Love that.
Uh,
So much good camera work. It's almost I felt like he was paying attention to some notes last week. Like really good stuff from Evan here.
Alicia sprinting across the yard, like on the judges' side, like we were losing it. Like
Yep.
we were losing it.
Emmy's
None,
zookeeper for humans ending up in a cage scenario. Like fun, cool, cool stuff from both teams. Or yeah, from Durango there.
uh,
Um,
and it is very clear that Lily has never seen the Karate Kid.
Yes, totally true. I mean, but you do what you do, Lily.
Right.
You pick your sound bite, you channel it, you use it as many times as you can, and show a little character growth or change. And that's certainly what we got in your two takes on that character. So fun stuff, not an easy one. I was like, wow, she took Karate Kid selling insurance. You, Lily, truly are a pro. Like, good on you. Also, classy of Durango to play Demetrius this week. I enjoyed watching Demetrius all the way in this show, and had a good one playing Frankenstein's monster here, trying a lot of different things, vocally especially. Great to see them still toying with the lineup and letting everybody have a go. It feels like over at Durango, so that was nice. With
And I think in Demetrius's case, he came in last year, kind of late, moved to the city, that kind of thing, new, but just loves this kind of side of the world. So, what a team to just kind of accidentally transfer into, right? So, yeah, for him to get this nod here in the Final Four, I think that shows their faith in him.
Yep,
So, kind of cool. Definitely
very
cool for
cool.
sure.
Radio on the basic side, Maya comes out with the 70-year-old who thinks they're 21.
Right.
Another really strong character from Maya here. Uh, played some risque jokes that were just great. I will say Maya plays a better male trope than I do, I think, after that game. Just solid stuff. Great visual play from Evan with all that perspective stuff. And you know, I think Lily should be darn proud of this group and this team and what she put out around them. I think it's one of those cool scenarios where a single student grew an amazing tree over at Basic. Um, as far as the dedication and commitment and everybody watching Lily be whom she was, inspired Evan, Jacob, and Maya to be themselves and to be so bold as they've been these last couple years. I felt that at the end of radio because um I'm feeling really proud of Basic and who they've been this year, being those four kids who found chemistry to get here. They're like Del Sol in my heart for their veteranship, But so unlike them as far as roster size, it really is a testament to the strength of those four students for getting it this far,
Right.
and their really great coaching staff. Cassie and Trevor, or Cassie and Scarlett, have done an amazing job pushing forward this group. Very, very impressive.
It was cool to have the judges on this one, these particular judges, because I think in Evan and Jacob's category, I mean, they almost give you the same look and feel that Brad and Danny do. Um,
Yeah,
and then if you're just talking about longtime duo on the other side with Emmy and Maya,
right.
so to have Brad's eyes on that, it was pretty neat. Not him not knowing anything about anybody. And then on Sam's side, with how different they are, I mean, Sam as a performer was everything Basic is as the structure, and everything Durango is as the wild cards. So I mean, Sam was the best of both worlds, kind of right in the middle on this one. So it was neat to at least get these two with their sets of eyes on this particular show. Um,
Sure.
is it time to reveal who's going?
Yeah, I think it is. So two teams, either to lose either one is heartbreaking. Certainly just like the last scenario. Um, Basic, again, you've grown into an amazing foursome who truly have developed into a team who can go out and do this if you want to on stages, with the four of you. I think Maya, you had a beautiful week, truly blossoming into the loud, larger than life persona that you deserved to show by the end of this playoff. I think you really got chances to sing here. Evan, I think you as well picked up some notes from those around you and enhanced your improv just enough to have a standout week as well. Lily, in the center of it, doing as Lily does, being the heart and soul of this Basic team. I'm so happy for you that you got a performance like this. And Jacob, dude, you've been helping them over at Basic really find the character within them and using every little second and decision to make a big choice and plow ideas forward with big aura, big moxie. You've done so much for this squad, and you should be proud of the year you've had and the recognitions you've gained. Durango, you guys have been goats all year. We've talked about it. You guys, I mean, what can we say? Your awards speak for themselves almost, but the rest of your improv speaks loudly and in volumes, helping Alicia and Josh have standout years, helping the rest of the team to grow to your level so that you no longer, Emmy and Maya, feel like the extremely awesome, figureheads. Now you have really helped to grow a program, and it's so exciting to see. If this is the end for you, I mean, what can you say other than be unbelievably proud of whom you are as a group, as a team? Your decisions are awesome, fun, exciting, different, and don't let any sort of result take that away from you. Here we go, right?
Yeah, yeah. I'm shocked it took me till now to even put this note out there, but in this final four, two matches, 5 out of 6 of our MVPs were here.
Right?
So
Yep.
which is such a big sign of who they are and what they're doing. So in this show we had 2 of them, and last show we had 3 of them.
Right.
So we are going to advance the team who's going to meet ATECH in the championship.
This is it for ATECH and the Mavericks. Who is going to stand across from them on championship day? It's a big moment. We've all been building to it, and it's going
It
to.
was decided by a split decision.
Oh man, wild.
The team advancing
Is going to be Durango. They've made it through their bracket half. Congratulations. Basic, a tough thing to see you go. I swear, I've been rooting for you in my heart uh, for a long time throughout this year. Great to meet you kids and work with you a little bit this year. But Durango and ATECH will be your finals matchup. What an incredible experience it's going to be to watch these kids have digital improv performed live on championship day. We're excited to see you in the middle of it, Kopy, so we can feel the sensation of a real show for the first time all year, the way it was intended to be, the way the Jesters has built it up to be, and we're excited to see that achieved. And this matchup, I mean, clearly it's going to have everything that this week had and probably some new bells and whistles because now ATECH and their energy was just insane this week. Absolutely focused and channeled. They're going to need a similar effort, most definitely. On Durango's side, there's plenty for them to choose to do, plenty of directions they can go in, lots of different games that are in their repertoire. And it's about time that Durango got to go for a full-fledged title, right? Like you kind of want to see it and root for them because they haven't won one. And that's shocking with the talent on their line. But ATECH is a great.
Well, I think it to even back up that I think that shows you how hard it is to get to a championship
Yeah.
and to have this experience. So I mean, I know we at least like to make a comment on the future match. So if we're just going to make a comment on it, here's another really cool stat about it is this is the first time that we're having two former teammates compete against each other in a championship.
That's cool.
Karina and Song were teammates. And I mean, if you want to take that even further, Song, the coach of ATECH, that was her school. She went to Durango. So she is
Awesome.
facing the school she graduated from.
Cool
Uh,
stories.
so
Should
yeah,
be a really
it's,
good
I mean, there's a
matchup.
lot there to talk about and, you know, maybe on the Emmy and Maya side. So, I mean, what was the one thing they haven't had on their list, on their resume, a championship show experience.
Yep.
And then we've been saying it for ATECH, they've been knocking on the door. So they burst it open and here we are.
Yep. Let's see what happens. Mavericks versus Trailblazers. I'm excited to see it. We all are. The league has been building up to this for a very long time. And the fact that we're getting championship day at all this year in a more traditional way than last year, for example, is just a heartwarming thing. So thank you for making it happen, Kopy. Thank you for all the ways you've adapted to help this year be truly special despite it all. And championship day is set. So we say the date with pride. Yes, May 8th.
Eighth.
Yep. And it's going to be 9 a.m. Kopy is live at the space, helping be in the center of a ton of techie based awesomeness. That's going to be our staff coming together to make this work. I'd love to be on hand as long as I'm not called back to doing adult life, then I would be happy to be involved in any way I can be to help make Championship Day special. And what a year it's been. So let's ramp up and be ready because Championship Day, May 8th, is just around the corner. We've had an amazing year of Jesters and an incredible Final Four to lead up to this. Durango and ATECH, good luck to you both. Have fun putting together the best lineup you've ever had. And go out there and be you because it's obviously and absolutely incredible that you are who you are and you matter. Your ideas matter. Your scenes matter. Go and have fun. Please go have fun. It's been wonderful. So we'll be back, I suppose, with just a recap at some point, probably following Championship Day to relive some of our favorite moments, perhaps, and say goodbye to the league after an incredible 12th year as we prepare to plan, hopefully, a more familiar format for next year. Kopy, any parting words before we say goodbye for this recap?
There's so much to be excited for over the next 2 weeks. Let's enjoy it. Let's live in it. There'll be all sorts of little stuff that will be coming out as the next 2 weeks are coming. So let's enjoy this day together. Brad asked, how did we do it? And the answer is we did it together.
That's right.
So there's
100%.
hundreds of us that did this thing together. So let's enjoy our final day together for this season.
Yes, indeed. We can all get behind that message. So we'll see you guys next time on Just a Recap when we break down championship results.